Finding the time to succeed in life, most people think success is about having more time. But success has never belonged to the people with the most time. It belongs to the people who understand what their time is truly worth. Every single day, we are all given the same 24 hours. The difference is not in the clock. The difference is in awareness. Some people wake up and immediately react to the world. Notifications, messages, noise, distractions. And before they realize it, the day is gone. Others wake up with intention. They understand that time is not something you find. Time is something you create through priorities. That changes everything. Because when people say, I don't have time, what they often mean is, it is not important enough yet. Think about that carefully. When something truly matters to us, we make room for it. We protect it. We sacrifice for it. A student who dreams of a better future studies even when tired. An athlete trains even when nobody is watching. An entrepreneur works after everyone else has stopped. Not because they have extra time, but because they have a reason strong enough to organize their lives around. And this is where many people misunderstand success. Success is not built in giant moments. It is built in small decisions repeated consistently. 1 hour of focused learning every day can change a life. 30 minutes of reading every day can create wisdom over time. A few disciplined actions repeated for years become extraordinary results. The problem is that modern life rewards distraction. We are surrounded by entertainment designed to steal our attention. And attention is the doorway to time. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you spend years distracted, you may feel busy without actually moving forward. But if you learn to direct your focus intentionally, even ordinary days become powerful. That is why successful people often protect their mornings, their routines, and their environment. They know energy matters, focus matters, consistency matters, and perhaps most importantly, they understand that saying, oh yes, to one thing means saying no to another. You cannot build a meaningful future while constantly feeding meaningless habits. At some point, every person must decide what deserves my time, because your calendar is not just a schedule, it is a reflection of your values. If growth matters, time must be invested in growth. If health matters, time must be invested in health. If family matters, time must be invested in family. The truth is simple. You do not suddenly wake up one day with enough time to succeed. You become successful when you stop waiting and start using the time already in your hands. And the beautiful thing is this, you do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You only need to begin one focused hour, one meaningful habit, one disciplined decision repeated again and again. Because greatness is rarely created through intensity alone. It is created through consistency. And in the end, success is not really about managing time. It is about managing yourself. The people who succeed are not superhuman. They simply decide that their future is too important to live every day by accident. And once you understand that, you stop asking, where can I find more time? You begin asking a far more powerful question. Am I using the time I already have in a way that honors the life I want to build? That is where success begins. 5 keynotes of the speech: success is created through priorities, not extra time. Small, consistent habits lead to extraordinary results. Attention and focus determine the direction of life. Discipline means choosing long-term growth over short-term distraction. Time management is ultimately self-management. People often believe that successful individuals somehow have more hours in a day. We look at entrepreneurs, athletes, leaders, creators, and high achievers and assume they possess a secret advantage that ordinary people do not. But the truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable. They do not have more time. They simply treat time differently. Every human being wakes up with the same 24 hours. Time does not discriminate. It does not care about background, education, talent, or financial status. The difference between those who grow and those who remain stuck is usually found in one thing: priorities. What we choose to prioritize shapes the direction of our lives. When someone says, I don't have time, it is rarely a literal statement. Most of the time, it means this is not important enough for me to make space for it. That realization can change the way we look at our daily habits. Because if something truly matters to us, we naturally rearrange our schedule around it. Think about the moments in life when something became urgent or meaningful. Suddenly, time appeared. A person who claims they are too busy to exercise will somehow find hours to scroll through social media. Someone who says they do not have time to learn a new skill may spend entire evenings watching content that adds no value to their future. The issue is not always lack of time. The issue is often lack of intentional priorities. Successful people understand that priorities require sacrifice. Every yes to something meaningful automatically creates a no to something less important. That is one of the hardest truths about growth. You cannot fully commit to your future while remaining attached to every distraction in the present. A student preparing for important exams may choose studying over entertainment. An entrepreneur may choose long nights of work instead of comfort. A writer may wake up early before the rest of the world to protect a few quiet hours for creativity. These choices are not always exciting. In fact, they are often repetitive and difficult. But success is rarely built from dramatic moments. It is built from repeated decisions that align with clear priorities. The challenge in modern life is that distractions are everywhere. Technology constantly competes for our attention. Notifications, endless videos, entertainment, and digital noise slowly consume the hours we once believed we lacked. Many people spend their lives reacting instead of deciding. They allow the world to control their schedule rather than consciously choosing what deserves their energy. That is why priorities matter so deeply. Priorities act like a filter. They help us separate what feels urgent from what is actually important. Without priorities, people become busy but not productive. They spend years moving without truly progressing. There's also an emotional side to priorities that many people ignore. Choosing what matters most often requires discomfort. It requires discipline when motivation disappears. It requires patience when results are slow. Most importantly, it requires clarity. Because if a person does not clearly understand what they want from life, they will naturally waste time on things that do not truly matter. People who succeed are not perfect at managing every minute. They simply become intentional about protecting the things that move their lives forward. They understand that even one focused hour can be more powerful than an entire day filled with distractions. Priorities also reveal values. If someone says family matters but never spends meaningful time with family, the schedule tells the real story. If someone claims growth matters but never reads, learns, or improves their skills, their actions expose their true priorities. Time is honest. It shows us what we genuinely care about. This is why success is not about becoming busier. It is about becoming clearer. Clear about goals, clear about values, clear about what deserves attention and what does not. Once a person becomes intentional with priorities, time begins to feel different. Days become more meaningful. Progress becomes visible. Small efforts begin to compound. And over time, what once seemed impossible starts becoming reality. Because in the end, successful people are not necessarily the ones with the most talent, resources, or opportunities. Often, they are simply the people who learned how to give their best time to the things that mattered most. Many people underestimate the power of small habits because they are too focused on immediate results. We live in a world that celebrates dramatic transformations, overnight success stories, and quick victories. Because of that, people often believe success must arrive through one massive breakthrough. But real growth rarely works that way. Most extraordinary achievements are built quietly through small, repeated actions that seem insignificant in the moment. The problem is that small habits do not feel powerful at first. Reading 10 pages a day does not seem life-changing. Exercising for 30 minutes may not immediately transform the body. Practicing a skill for 1 hour might feel too small to matter. Yet what people fail to realize is that success is not created by intensity alone. It is created by consistency. A single action may not change your life. But repeated daily, that same action begins shaping your future in ways that are almost invisible at first. This is why disciplined people often trust the process even when they cannot yet see results. They understand that improvement compounds over time. Imagine someone who decides to improve their knowledge by reading every day. One day of reading changes very little. 1 week may still feel ordinary. But after a year, that person has consumed ideas, perspectives, and information that most people never take the time to learn. Their thinking changes. Their communication improves. Their confidence grows. All because of a small habit repeated consistently. The same principle applies to every area of life. Small financial habits create wealth over time. Small health habits create strength and energy. Small communication habits strengthen relationships. Tiny improvements repeated daily eventually separate successful people from average ones. What makes this difficult is that human beings naturally seek immediate rewards. We want evidence that our effort is working right now. When progress feels slow, many people quit before the results have time to appear. They mistake lack of immediate success for failure. But growth is often invisible in the beginning. A seed planted in the ground does not become a tree overnight. For a long time, it appears as though nothing is happening. Yet beneath the surface, roots are developing quietly. In the same way, disciplined habits often create internal changes long before external results become visible. This is where patience becomes essential. Consistency requires the ability to continue even when excitement fades. Motivation is temporary. It rises and falls depending on emotions, circumstances, and energy levels. Habits, however, create structure. They allow people to continue moving forward even on difficult days. Successful individuals rarely rely only on motivation. They rely on systems. They create routines that make positive actions easier to repeat. They understand that waiting to feel ready is dangerous because feelings constantly change. Instead, they focus on showing up repeatedly, even imperfectly. Another reason small habits matter is because they shape identity. Every repeated action sends a message to the mind about who we are becoming. A person who writes daily begins seeing themselves as a writer. Someone who trains consistently starts believing they are disciplined. Confidence is often built through evidence created by repeated behavior. This is important because lasting success is not only about achieving goals. It is about becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining those goals. Small habits gradually transform character. They build resilience, focus, patience, and self-respect. People often wait for huge opportunities to change their lives while ignoring the small daily decisions already shaping their future. But life is usually determined more by ordinary routines than extraordinary moments. The way someone spends their mornings, manages distractions, uses free time, and responds to challenges slowly defines the direction of their life. Even negative habits work the same way. A few wasted hours may not seem harmful today. One unhealthy decision may appear harmless. But repeated over months and years, small negative patterns can quietly damage health, confidence, relationships, and potential. This is why awareness matters. Tiny choices are never truly tiny when repeated consistently. They either move us closer to the future we want or further away from it. The beauty of small habits is that they make growth possible for anyone. You do not need to change your entire life overnight. You do not need perfect conditions. You only need the willingness to improve slightly and consistently. Over time, those small actions accumulate into results that once seemed impossible. And often, when people finally notice someone's success, they are only seeing the visible outcome of years of invisible discipline. Attention is one of the most valuable resources a human being possesses, yet most people give it away without realizing its importance. Every day, our minds are pulled in countless directions by notifications, entertainment, opinions, advertisements, and endless distractions. In a world where everything is competing for attention, the ability to focus has become increasingly rare. And because it is rare, it has become extremely powerful. The direction of a person's life is often determined by what consistently receives their attention. Whatever we focus on repeatedly begins shaping our thoughts, emotions, decisions, and behavior. Attention is not just about what we look at. It is about what we allow to influence our minds over time. Many people believe they lack discipline or motivation, when in reality, they have simply trained their minds to become distracted. Constant interruptions weaken the ability to concentrate deeply. When someone spends hours jumping between social media, short videos, messages, and entertainment, the brain slowly becomes conditioned to seek stimulation every few seconds. As a result, long periods of focused thinking begin to feel uncomfortable. This creates a serious problem because meaningful success usually requires deep focus. Learning a skill, building a business, writing, studying, creating, or solving important problems all demand sustained attention. Great work rarely comes from scattered energy. It comes from concentrated effort directed towards something meaningful. The challenge is that distractions often feel harmless in the moment. A few minutes on a phone does not seem dangerous. One unnecessary interruption feels small. But over time, these small distractions fragment attention so severely that people lose the ability to stay mentally present. Days become reactive instead of intentional. Attention works like a spotlight. Whatever falls inside that spotlight becomes stronger in the mind. If a person constantly focuses on negativity, fear, comparison, and distractions, those things begin shaping their mindset and emotional state. But if someone intentionally directs attention toward growth, learning opportunities, and purpose, their thinking begins to change in a completely different way. This is why highly successful people are often extremely protective of their focus. They understand that attention is connected to energy and energy determines performance. Instead of giving their best mental energy to random distractions, they direct it toward activities that create progress. Many people wake up and immediately allow the outside world to control their attention. Before their own thoughts even begin, they are already consuming messages, news, videos, and opinions from others. Their focus becomes scattered before the day truly starts. Over time, this habit weakens clarity and reduces productivity. Intentional people operate differently. They decide where their attention should go before the world decides for them. They create environments that support focus rather than destroy it. They understand that concentration is not accidental. It is trained through repeated choices. Another important truth about attention is that it affects emotional well-being. Whatever someone constantly consumes eventually influences how they feel. Continuous exposure to negativity, comparison, conflict, and unrealistic standards can create anxiety, frustration, and self-doubt. On the other hand, focusing attention on learning, meaningful relationships, health, and purposeful work often creates greater stability and confidence. This is why focus is not simply a productivity skill. It is a life skill. It shapes both external results and internal peace. Modern society often rewards speed and constant activity, but activity is not always progress. A person can spend an entire day busy while accomplishing very little of importance. Without focused attention, effort becomes diluted. But when attention is directed clearly toward one meaningful goal, even small actions become powerful. There is also a connection between attention and identity. The things we repeatedly pay attention to slowly become part of who we are. Someone who constantly studies ideas grows intellectually. Someone who practices gratitude develops a different mindset. Someone who continuously focuses on improvement becomes more disciplined over time. The mind adapts to whatever it repeatedly experiences. That is why attention must be treated carefully. The most successful individuals are not necessarily the smartest people in the room. Often, they are simply the people who learned how to focus deeply in a distracted world. They developed the ability to stay committed to meaningful work while others became consumed by noise. And perhaps that is one of the greatest advantages a person can develop today. The ability to decide what deserves attention and what does not. Because where attention goes, energy follows. And where energy flows consistently, life eventually grows in that direction. Discipline is often misunderstood because people associate it with punishment, restriction, or forcing yourself to suffer. But real discipline is not about making life harder. It is about making life meaningful. It is the ability to choose what matters most over what feels good in the moment. And in a world filled with endless distractions and instant gratification, that ability has become more important than ever. Human beings naturally seek comfort. We prefer actions that provide immediate pleasure and avoid actions that require effort, patience, or discomfort. That is normal. The problem begins when short-term comfort consistently becomes more important than long-term growth. Over time, this pattern slowly weakens potential. Every meaningful achievement demands some form of sacrifice. Success in health may require waking up early to train instead of staying comfortable in bed. Success in education may require studying while others relax. Success in business may require working through uncertainty and failure before results appear. In each situation, discipline becomes the bridge between who a person is today and who they want to become in the future. The difficulty is that distractions offer immediate rewards while growth often offers delayed rewards. Entertainment is easy, improvement is difficult. Comfort feels good now, while discipline usually pays off later. This is why many people struggle to remain consistent. They judge actions based on immediate feelings rather than long-term consequences. But disciplined people think differently. They understand that every decision either strengthens or weakens the future they are trying to build. Small moments matter because repeated choices eventually become habits, and habits shape identity. For example, someone may decide to skip one workout. On its own, that choice may seem harmless. One missed session does not destroy progress. But discipline is not built through isolated actions. It is built through patterns. When people repeatedly choose comfort over commitment, they slowly train themselves to avoid difficulty. Eventually, excuses become automatic. On the other hand, every time a person follows through despite discomfort, they strengthen self-respect. They prove to themselves that feelings do not control their actions. That internal confidence becomes powerful because it creates trust in one's own ability to stay committed. Discipline also creates freedom, even though many people believe the opposite. At first glance, structure may appear limiting. Routines may seem restrictive. But without discipline, people often become controlled by impulses, distractions, and unhealthy habits. True freedom comes from having control over yourself rather than constantly reacting to temporary emotions. Consider someone who lacks discipline with money. In the moment, spending impulsively feels enjoyable. But over time, financial stress limits choices and creates pressure. The same principle applies to health, learning, relationships, and personal growth. Short-term comfort often creates long-term problems, while temporary discipline often creates long-term freedom. Another important truth about discipline is that it becomes easier when connected to purpose. People are far more likely to remain consistent when they clearly understand why something matters. Without purpose, discipline feels exhausting. But with purpose, sacrifice gains meaning. A parent may work tirelessly because they want a better future for their children. A student may continue studying through frustration because they dream of changing their life. An athlete may endure difficult training because they are committed to becoming stronger. Purpose transforms discipline from forced effort into intentional action. This does not mean disciplined people never struggle. They experience doubt, tiredness, and temptation like everyone else. The difference is that they do not allow temporary feelings to permanently control their direction. They understand that motivation is unreliable. Some days, motivation disappears completely. Discipline is what carries people forward during those moments. Modern society constantly encourages instant gratification. Everything is designed to deliver quick pleasure, fast entertainment, and immediate stimulation. As a result, patience is becoming rare. Many people want success quickly, but resist the process required to earn it. Yet nearly every meaningful accomplishment requires sustained effort over time. Discipline teaches patience. It teaches resilience. It teaches the ability to continue even when progress feels slow. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches responsibility. Instead of blaming circumstances, disciplined individuals focus on controlling what they can control: their actions, habits, and decisions. In many ways, discipline is an act of respect toward your future self. It is the willingness to endure temporary discomfort in order to create a better life later. While distractions promise quick satisfaction, discipline builds lasting growth, and over time, the gap between those two paths becomes impossible to ignore. Most people believe time management is about schedules, calendars, productivity apps, or organizing tasks more efficiently. While those tools can be helpful, they are not the real foundation of effective time management. The deeper truth is that time management is ultimately self-management. It is not simply about controlling hours in a day. It is about controlling habits, emotions, priorities, focus, and decisions. Every person has the same amount of time, yet people produce vastly different results with it. This difference rarely comes from the clock itself. It comes from how individuals manage themselves within the time they have. Many people struggle with productivity not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, but because they struggle with distraction, inconsistency, procrastination, and emotional decision-making. They know what they should do, yet they delay action. They create plans, yet fail to follow through. This happens because managing time without managing behavior is almost impossible. For example, someone may build the perfect schedule for studying or working, but if they cannot manage their impulses, the schedule eventually collapses. Notifications become distractions. Small breaks turn to wasted hours. Temporary moods begin controlling important decisions. In these moments, the real challenge is not time itself. The challenge is self-control. This is why highly effective people focus heavily on routines and discipline. They understand that success is less about making perfect plans and more about becoming the kind of person who can consistently follow them. Systems matter, but character matters even more. Self-management requires awareness. A person must understand how they use energy, what triggers distraction, and which habits weaken focus. Some people are most productive in the morning. Others perform better later in the day. Some environments encourage concentration, while others create constant interruptions. Understanding yourself allows you to structure life more intentionally. Another important part of self-management is emotional regulation. Emotions strongly influence how people use time. Stress can lead to avoidance. Fear can create procrastination. Boredom can push people toward distractions. Without emotional awareness, individuals often escape discomfort instead of facing important responsibilities. This is one reason why difficult tasks are frequently delayed. The issue is not usually lack of ability. It is discomfort. Deep work requires mental effort, patience, and concentration, while distractions offer immediate relief. Managing time effectively, therefore, requires the ability to tolerate discomfort long enough to complete meaningful work. Self-management also means understanding priorities. Many people fill their days with urgent but unimportant activities because they struggle to say no. They allow other people's demands, unnecessary commitments, and constant interruptions to control their schedule. As a result, they stay busy but make little real progress. People who manage themselves well become protective of their attention and energy. They recognize that every commitment carries a cost. Saying yes to one thing means giving up time for something else. Because of this, intentional individuals learn to make decisions based on long-term goals rather than short-term pressure. Consistency is another major part of self-management. Anyone can perform well occasionally when motivation is high. The real challenge is maintaining productive behavior when motivation disappears. This is where discipline becomes more important than inspiration. Disciplined people understand that waiting to feel ready often leads to wasted time. Instead, they act according to commitment rather than emotion. There is also a strong connection between self-management and identity. The way people use time reflects the way they see themselves. Someone who values growth naturally invests time in learning and improvement. Someone who respects their goals becomes more intentional with daily choices. Over time, repeated behavior strengthens personal identity. This is why small habits matter so much. Daily routines quietly shape character. A person who consistently honors commitments develops trust in themselves. That self-trust creates confidence, because confidence is often built through evidence of reliability. Modern life makes self-management increasingly difficult. Endless distractions compete for attention every minute. Entertainment is available instantly. Social media encourages comparison and constant stimulation. Without awareness, people can lose hours without realizing where their time went. But individuals who learn to manage themselves gain a powerful advantage. They stop blaming time and begin taking responsibility for decisions. They understand that productivity is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things with focus and consistency. In the end, time cannot truly be controlled. It continues moving whether we are prepared or not. What can be controlled is behavior. Focus can be directed. Habits can be changed. Priorities can be chosen. And once a person learns to manage themselves effectively, time begins to work for them instead of against them. At the end of the day, success is not reserved for the lucky, the gifted, or the people with perfect circumstances. It belongs to those who learn how to use their time with intention. Every hour we spend is shaping the person we are becoming. The small habits we repeat, the distractions we allow, the focus we protect, and the discipline we practice all quietly determine the direction of our future. Life does not suddenly change in one dramatic moment. It changes through daily decisions that seem small but carry enormous power over time. The people who succeed are not always the smartest or the most talented. Often, they are simply the ones who stayed consistent while others became distracted. They understood that growth requires patience, focus, and the courage to choose long-term purpose over short-term comfort. And perhaps the most important lesson is this: we cannot manage time unless we first learn to manage ourselves. Our habits, mindset, priorities, and actions shape the quality of our lives far more than the clock ever will. So instead of asking whether you have enough time to succeed, ask yourself a better question: are you using the time you already have to become the person you were meant to be? Because success does not begin someday in the future. It begins with the choices you make today.